It's no secret that starting a business is hard. Even if you have an amazing idea, bringing it to life can feel overwhelming. With HubSpot's new entrepreneurship kit, though, you can go from idea to IPO with the help of a company that knows a thing or two about growing better. The all-inclusive kit gives you step-by-step guidance and frameworks to help you crush every stage of starting a business, with tools tailored to help all along the entrepreneurial journey. It's packed with templates for project management, email, and skill development. Wow, that's a lot of templates. There's also a solopreneur guide. It's got freelance pricing worksheets and lots more you can get up and running immediately. And best of all, it's free. With expert guidance and frameworks from HubSpot, starting a business doesn't have to be so hard. So don't wait to start yours. Go to HubSpot.com/ENT to download the guide right now.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, August 8th. I'm John Weigell here with Juliet, Bennett, Ryla, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Ugly and unattractive bus stops with no positive features are a huge reason that many locals and travelers choose not to ride the bus. Bus stop construction can range from a beautiful double-decker bus stop in central London to a single pole in the ground in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Therein lies the missed opportunity for many cities. If bus stops were just nicer, does that mean more people would use them and even pay more to ride? We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines today in business and tech. Starting us off, Shopify shares surged 22% Wednesday morning after the e-commerce company reported that the amount of merchandise sold on the platform rose 22% in Q2 to $67.2 billion. Next, HarrisWalls.com just sold for $15,000. Jeremy Green Eche, a notorious cyber squatter, bought the domain 4 years ago alongside 15 other Harris-related domains, and it definitely paid off for him. Juliet, did you know about this guy previously?
You know, I didn't, which is funny because this is actually not the first time he's done this. He apparently did this with Hillary Clinton during her presidential campaign. He bought ClintonCain.com, which paid off for him when she chose Senator Tim Kaine. So
yes.
Sometimes I think this is a really unethical way to make money, and I've actually experienced it. When I was a lot younger, I was in a band, and I remember we recorded like a very bad, low budget CD. And the guy that recorded it for us bought our band's domain name.
Oh.
And it was like, what? We're not very good. You didn't buy the rollingstones.com or, ChapelleRowan.com. You bought.
Wow.
I don't know why I would do that. But this is actually just really funny to me because, I don't know. I mean, they have money.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. It's like the weirdest form of gambling, like trying to predict not only who the presidential nominee will be, but also who they choose as their running mate.
It is. And the surprising part about it is he did it twice, as you mentioned before, the Clinton-Kaine campaign. But you know what was funny about that? I actually found out that who purchased it was not the Clinton and Kaine campaign. It was actually the Trump campaign that bought that domain, weirdly enough, which is really funny. So he got contacted by an anonymous source, and it eventually came out that it was the Trump campaign that bought it from him, which is really interesting as well.
Wow, amazing. Did they ever do anything with it?
I'm not sure.
Or they just sat on it?
I don't know. Maybe we could go to it now and see if it's just a lot of
so weird.
Hillary defamation, but who knows?
It says there's nothing there and it's unsecure.
Ooh, yeah. IT's going to ping you about that one.
Sorry.
Up next, Disney's streaming business actually made money last quarter, bringing in a $47 million profit. Less than 2 years ago, it was regularly losing about $1 billion per quarter. So I guess they put it together all of a sudden. Over to hotels and lodging, Airbnb's new offerings will include co-hosting, better guest services, and the relaunch of experiences, but, quote, more affordable, per CEO Brian Chesky. And finally, Auntie Anne's announced a fragrance. Yes, that's right, a fragrance called Need. That's Need with a K. The perfume is advertised to smell like buttery pretzels. So if you want to smell like my childhood mall's food court, you can do so now, starting August 14th. All right, on to the main story today. Most bus stops in the U.S. are rather unattractive or embarrassingly bare bones. But there might be a huge opportunity here for towns and cities to renovate their bus stops to increase ridership for more income and more public transit, aka less congestion. So first, Juliet, can you tell me about the state of bus stops from your perspective?
Well, it really depends on where you are, I would say. And I'm sharing this perspective as someone who has not driven a car in 9 years and takes the bus a lot. And has taken the bus in many cities across the United States and Canada and some in Japan. I mean, a lot. Sometimes you get a great bus stop. There are some bus stops that are very aesthetically appealing and they have all sorts of amenities. You can sit down in the shade, and the shade is all of the time because it is structured in such a way that no matter what time it is, there is shade. Sometimes there are phone chargers. Sometimes there is real-time arrival information that tells you when the next bus is coming. Sometimes there's a trash can, which, is convenient. And sometimes there's just a pile of trash next to a pole in the ground, maybe on the sidewalk. There's one in Beverly Hills that's like not even sidewalk. It's just like stand here, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends. It can be great. It can be a pole hidden behind a tree with nothing around.
Yeah. Bus stops that make you think, if I stand here, will a bus actually come pick me up? Which
Exactly.
sometimes they even won't. So why bus stops? Why is this such like an important topic for today? Because you referenced the study that you wrote about, and I would love to learn about it.
Yeah. And this is interesting because I think a lot of public transit studies focus on trains. I was actually just thinking, did I ride a bus in Japan? I don't think I did. I think I only ever took trains. But bus stops are kind of like, I don't know. I feel like buses are less romantic than trains.
Sure.
And this study focused on buses. It was a study out of an area outside of Milan, Italy. It surveyed about 300 passengers at this bus stop, showed them a VR version of a stop, better seating, shopping options, and it found that they would be willing to pay an average of $4.71 more and spend 28 minutes more in transit if they could use the more attractive bus stop.
Wow. So some pretty good findings here. I mean, not completely shocking. You would expect that a nicer bus stop would warrant more people wanting to use the bus. But is there anything else here that this kind of broke down for us?
So what I think is interesting here is I would not pay $5 more or wait 28 minutes longer to wait at a more attractive bus stop. That's bullshit. No, I don't care. And here I think is the interesting part. This study was broken down by Bloomberg, and the study's lead was all about beauty. His name's Armando Cartani. And he was like, investing in beauty is always a good move for both private operators and public administrators. That's great. I love that. I think that's true in many ways. However, this survey mostly talked to tourists who are kind of on their own schedule, relaxed and have anywhere to be at a specific time necessarily.
Right.
I think when you're a daily commuter, you don't care if the bus stop is pretty, but you do want the bus stop to be safe, affordable, and convenient. So then I started looking at other studies that were focused more on commuters. And yeah, they want to walk safely to a stop, and they want to wait comfortably. A University of Minnesota study found that better bus stops actually impacted how long people feel like they're waiting. Among riders who waited for 10 minutes, those who waited at stops that had shelters, benches, real-time arrival info, they perceived that they had waited about 11 minutes, so pretty accurate. Those who waited at stops with no amenities thought that they had been there for 21 minutes, so more than twice the time they actually stood there. I think you'll see that in cities, especially in Los Angeles, where I live. You'll see people standing next to a pole in the ground on the dirt in the blazing sun, being like, when is this thing coming? Who knows? No one knows. It's a mystery. And it's like, yeah, that feels interminable when it's 96 degrees outside like it is today.
Right.
And that's what I care about.
It's more excruciating. The time is not the same, even though it seems like it's the same to stand there in the hot sun instead of stand under shade or on a bench with a nice snack or something.
Right. And there was another study, University of Utah, that found that ridership actually grew at walkable stops that did have shelters and benches and the like. However, it couldn't figure out if it was like, are these existing riders or just like, I'm going to go wait at that stop instead because it's better? Or if it was new commuters who are like, oh, the bus doesn't suck as much as I thought it did. I'm going to use it because it has improved service. So, I think it's pretty obvious a better bus stop. People like it more. How important is it in terms of growing ridership? In terms of new riders, it's hard to say. And then all of this stuff with art, it's kind of like, I think that's not the priority for the commuter, but it is fun for the tourists.
Yeah, maybe it does enhance the experience, I guess, but it seems like the commuter is more concerned about the convenience of the factor and getting to work or home as soon as possible. That's, I guess, the big question here is whether cities should really invest in nicer bus stops, or should they invest more in just making the bus system better?
Right.
Those, which are two very different initiatives, I guess.
Right. And you know what? I honestly think, and if some of you car people who love your cars will bear with me for a moment, I honestly think that it is a matter of both. I think what we're looking at right now are downtown areas that just, they're kind of dying. You know, you do not have as many people going to the office. So as a result, you do not have as many people downtown. You don't have as many people in coffee shops, restaurants, shops, et cetera. A lot of stuff is closing. We've talked about this before. You can read myriad studies about it. And they talk a lot about how are you going to revitalize downtown and make people want to go there. And public art is something that cities have often used to make downtown centers appear more vibrant. I grew up with a giant Alexander Calder sculpture in Grand Rapids, Michigan that I had to look at every day. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes cities look better and it makes people feel safer. It makes people feel like this is the place to be. And I think when it comes to the bus, there is a large stigma around the bus and people who ride it, especially in the United States of America. I cannot tell you how many times when I talk about riding the bus, people are like, why don't you just get a car? Why don't you just take an Uber? And it's like,
oh yeah.
Like they act as though I'm being punished by having to take the bus. I have a visual disability. That's why I don't drive. So I'm not going to get a car. I'm not going to pay $40 to go downtown when it takes me 20 minutes to hop on the train. Like it's not a punishment. And like when you go to other countries and other places and you see people on public transit, they're just like listening to a podcast or reading a book. But here it's perceived as something you will only do if you absolutely have to. And if like all of these misfortunes have befallen you now, you may ride the bus. It's like... And then you watch people be like, oh my God, I'm not going to go downtown because it takes me 40 minutes to park and then I have to pay $60. And it's like, okay, but you could just take that. No, you won't do that. Okay. So I do think it is a combination of like having an improved service. So the first time someone takes a bus, it doesn't take 9 years and it's not awful, but also having it look aesthetically appealing.
Right.
Nobody is like, oh, look at that museum. That must suck. Like nobody does that because it looks nice. Nobody's like, oh, I hate the park. And I just think these two things have to be in tandem. And that's what's so interesting about this study, especially from like a business perspective, is, you know, we're talking about what can you do to get people back downtown, to get people back in these shops. And it's like, well, you know, a lot of people don't want to go downtown because it takes forever and then it's expensive to park and it's annoying. But I don't know.
Yeah, public transit could be a good option for people that want to go downtown or to these places. For example, in many other countries around the world, public transit is fantastic. Like the Singapore buses are like, I could eat dinner off the ground of a Singapore bus. It is just very pristine, very clean, but it's just what these cities in America specifically choose to invest their capital in. If they choose to invest it in clean and aesthetically pleasing options for public transit, or do they want to make the transit more convenient, or do they want to just spend it all on buying giant screens to show ads to people taking public transit? So therein lies your buckets. No shade, absolutely no shade, but a little shade.
Yeah. And for anybody who's sitting here being like, what about all the bureaucracy and red tape around who controls the bus? Guess what? There's a story for you. We've linked to it in our newsletter. And it's all about how Los Angeles actually missed out on a ton of bus stops because of its stupid advertising policies. So if you're a killjoy cynic like me, you might like that story. I know I did.
I will too, I'm sure. All right, that's going to do it for us today, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey everybody, I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by John Lee Dumas, and it's available right now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. It offers lots of energy, value, consistency, and it's for anybody who wants to learn more about entrepreneurship. It's super fast-paced and packed with valuable stories about entrepreneurs, their aha moments, their failures, and everything to what's working for them today. Recently, he had on this guest, Ashley Stahl, who talked all about her job at the Pentagon and how she evolved into becoming a top 100 TEDx speaker. She talks about evolving your brand from the ground up, leaning into the skills that you already have to build your brand, and also creating virality. It's a great listen. You should check it out. And you can listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts.